Welcome everybody to episode 4 of The Female Perspective from MXP Magazine. I'm your host, Jackie Riess, joined again by my buddy, Lindsey Bradley. How's it going, buddy?
Good. How are you?
Good. I put a down payment on a brand new dirt bike this week, so that's
Would
exciting.
you wait? What? Really?
Yeah, really.
What kind?
A new,
European?
yeah, a new 150, 23.
Nice.
So pretty excited.
23.
Yeah,
They make those
2020.
already? I guess they will. Yeah, it's 22.
I mean, like, there's no 2022s around, so like, I just was like, hey, can can I get a new 150? And they're like, yeah, we can put you down for one of three 150s that we're getting in the summer. And I was like, wow, okay, so put my name on that, and that's pretty exciting, but probably won't get it
Perfect.
till after I head up there.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Uh, so a lot of action this weekend. Anaheim 2 Supercross. Kind of
hmm
wanted to start with our Canadian highlights here. Before we jump into Supercross, KTM Canada announced their team: Jess Pettis on the 450, Jacob Piccolo and Sebastian Racine on the 250. Is this surprising at all to you? And a little bit of a change here: two guys on the 250 instead of two guys on the 450.
Yeah. No, I don't see it being a huge change. I know Pettis was obviously a 450 guy, but Piccolo's been under the watchful eye of KTM, and I know that for the last couple of years. And he rode for Al Dick there in Sky Racing last year. Won the championship, and obviously that's what KTM looks for too. Is they are looking for guys that are going to win, and Piccolo and Racine are right up there in the top five. Sebastian's a really fast up and coming kid. He rode the amateur stuff until round five, maybe this year, Sandali, and then he started his pro career there as an intermediate still. But he went 5-5 on the day as an intermediate, which was super impressive. But I think they will do very well under the tent there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were kind of talking a bit. It's kind of surprising to see a lot of these teams taking in these younger kids, like we'd see with Ryder McNabb at Honda, Sebastian now at KTM, Kawasaki doing similar. It's kind of interesting. How do you think that that's going to play out in the 250 class racing this summer in the Triple Crown Series?
Yeah, I think having those fast amateurs, bringing them up through the ranks, kind of on a pro team almost, is kind of cool, and it gives them the experience and the drive to that's where they want to get to. So that's where they'll end up if they put the work in. And I think it'll be a good summer for Racine and McNabb and all those young kids for sure. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know about you, but I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I don't know, to what I remember, McNabb never really was like wily young racer. Like he seemed pretty put together from what I remember. What do you think about that?
Yeah, he was, and I didn't know Ratter all too well until this year, I guess. I got pretty close to that family, but yeah, as far as I know, he wasn't outrageously
Hmm.
fast. I know he was fast, and he did a lot of American races, from what I understand. But yeah, I don't know him all too well. I didn't know him all too well until this year. But he's a great kid.
Yeah.
He's driven, and he knows how to ride dirt bikes. So yeah, I think it'll work out for him.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see if these other young kids are composed like he was last year and or if they're just going to go off the wall and do anything that they can to win and make for very exciting racing in the 250 class. So I'm excited to see how maybe just their personal dynamics work out in the racing.
Yeah, agreed. Me too. It'll be good.
Yeah. Moving on to Anaheim 2 Supercross. We're at round 4 out of 17, which seems like a daunting number of races at this point, and I'm sure the riders feel the same. Cole Thompson, fourth in the heat. He was battling with Justin Rodbell, and what really impressed me in that heat with Cole this week was he just appeared to stay really low in the rhythms, and that he was able to make up that time, moving and pushing through the rhythm sections. He ended up going 12th in the main, and overall another great weekend for Cole. What do you think about Cole's performance in Anaheim again this weekend?
Yeah, I was super impressed by his ride. Obviously, fourth in the heat is kind of where he can be and where he should be. 12th in the main too is also really good. I think it was a very impressive ride. He's hovering around the 12-10 area, but I don't foresee him out of maybe like a 5 to 7 position. He can that's where he can be, and I think he'd really make a statement for Canada if he can be in the 5 to 7 range for sure. That'd be really cool. He's fully capable. He just needs to put it all together, which
Yeah.
yeah, it's coming, I think.
Yeah, yeah. like we had talked about earlier, every round gets easier. Like, every round is unique and has its own challenges, but also like you finally get in the flow of things and you know what's coming, you know who you're racing, what their dynamics are, and so yeah, I think that's interesting, and I think it'll be great to see him, keep improving week after week, like kind of like we've seen.
Yeah, for sure.
Moving on, the Supercross Futures was back again here in Anaheim. Um, but this time, Canada had a dog in the race. Alex Gatt out of BC, 14th overall. Pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, it was awesome. I did see something on Instagram. He wasn't really too worried about what he was going to finish overall. He was just looking for the experience, which is super cool. And yeah, it's good to see the Canadians down there. It's not exactly close to be down there, so it's good to see some of Canada represent, or Canadians representing their country down there for sure. Neat.
Yeah, it's cool that he just wanted to go have fun, right? Like,
Yeah.
and if he's good enough to qualify to make it to the Supercross Futures event, like, good for him. Like, man, I would go. Like, that's awesome.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm sure it's cool to race in the stadium, with the pros on the same day.
Yeah, and I think having that mentality of not really too worried about your results, but just looking for the experience is a good mentality to have. I think it really keeps you grounded. And from what I understand, that was his first like real big event. So I think that really would keep you grounded, having that sort of mentality and just go out and ride and have fun and not worry about what you're going to get overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good lesson for everybody, right? Like,
Yeah.
don't get too much in your head. Like, I know I'm my biggest critic,
Yeah,
when
I'm
it
my own
comes to
worst enemy
racing.
every time.
And
Yeah.
so, if he truly believes that he just wants to go have fun, like, sometimes like you'll say things and it's like trying to cover up how you really feel, but like if he really felt like that, like awesome on him just for going out and giving it his best and having fun. Like that's something that we can all learn from.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. Agreed.
Interesting track this weekend. I'm just kind of glad to see that they're trying different things. Like this track seemed very unique to me. Of course, had a sand section that made for interesting racing there in the 450 main.
Yeah, it claims some people.
Yeah, no kidding. What do you think of the track this weekend?
Yeah, I like the layout of it. I think it was different for sure. That sand section made it a little bit more technical, and it did claim some riders for sure. It made for some interesting racing, but yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of the season, and hopefully they can keep going with the tracks like that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I wonder if they have someone different, with input on the tracks. Like, I don't know. It just seems like big whoops. They ended up taking out a whoop section from their original track map. I don't know if that was because of futures or whatnot, but it's just been really seemingly challenging tracks. And I think that it's cool that they're giving different things a shot. Like I said before, like in my own racing, like the snowcross, the snowbike series stuff, like a lot of the tracks kind of seem to blend together for me, and so it would be really exciting as a racer to have very different and distinct tracks each weekend of racing.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, it's been different and technical every week. And I can't remember who it was, or I think I saw it on Instagram, but someone stalled their bike in the middle of the whoop section and they were like literally up to their handlebars. Like that's how deep the whoops are. And
Hmm.
it's crazy to see it how quick some of those guys are going through there.
Yeah.
And then you see a guy stall his bike and he's up to his handlebars. Like how? How do you go through there so fast? It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Commitment.
Yeah. Yeah, just lean back and hold on, hope for the best.
Yeah, no kidding. I I will not commit that much. Sorry about it.
No, no. Yeah, me neither.
Uh,
I got to go to work on Monday and yeah, not
yeah.
happening.
So also this weekend, first weekend of the Olympics, so we had quite a few changes in the broadcast team. Daniel Blair
Mhm.
in the booth, Zach Osborne filling in for Daniel on the floor, Kristen Beat filling in for Will, also, pit side, trackside reporting. What'd
Yep.
you think? What'd you think? I thought it was awesome.
I thought it was awesome. Ricky and Daniel Blair, they have a lot of history going back. So I think they work really well together. And it was nice to see Zach Osborne kind of still in the industry. I know he's retired now, but he's kind of still in the industry and still doing his thing. So it was neat to see. And he knows all the riders' perspectives and stuff. So he's able to put that knowledge into the announcing part of it too. It's pretty cool.
Hmm. Yeah, like you said, I think that Daniel and Ricky have really great chemistry. Like,
Yeah.
um, just because they've known each other for a long time, and the way that when you have a friendship with someone, you're able to really kind of understand their maybe not verbal communication, but all the other kinds of communication that are going on, I'm sure, behind the scenes as they're trying to call these things and work together to call plays and things like that. Like, I think it's awesome. And I think from a broader fan perspective, like, people have a lot of respect for Daniel because he's been in the sport for so long.
Right.
I don't feel like people have that same respect when they bring in bigger name guys, which might not necessarily be warranted because they have done their homework. Of course, if you're going to be an amazing journalist and announcer like that, you have to do your homework. But it's it just feels different, and I hope that this is something for Daniel moving forward in his
Yeah,
career.
absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I can see it. He'd be awesome for it too. He has a great he's a great announcer. He's kind of like Dave Bell back in Canada. That's how I picture him. I'm not sure why.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's who he reminds me of.
nice. And Zacho, like you said, has a very recent rider perspective,
Mhm.
and I think that that's cool. He seemed very nervous to me, which I would be nervous too, right?
Well,
Like,
who wouldn't be? Yeah.
like this is one thing doing a podcast, but doing things live makes me a lot more nervous, I think. Um,
That and you're standing in front of however many people are in the stands.
and how many people are behind that lens, and then you start thinking
Exactly.
about it,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
compounding.
It would get to my head very quickly. I don't know if I could do it, honestly.
Yeah, so I think he'll get better and better. Like, he's a
Yeah.
great interview, so it's it's in there, but it's very different being on the other side of it and trying to figure out what people want to hear. Like, what point should I make right now? Like, what's important at the beginning of this race or in this race right now? Like, it's a whole different way of thinking about things and trying to present the sport to people. So I think he'll just get better from here.
Right. Me too. I agree.
It's been a pretty crazy, like, overall start to the season, right? Like, the
To
first
say
three
the least.
rounds. Last week, our big talking point at the end of the show was there were 7 points between the top 8 guys, and I think that that was in the 450 class. I think that
Mhm.
now it's really kind of settling in, which
Yeah.
good and bad, right? But I'm kind of disappointed. I don't know. Like, there was still drama this weekend, but I'm disappointed that the points are spreading out a bit. Now we're 8 points between the top three and 30 between the top 10. So, 20-point differential, 22-point differential. In the past between the past 2 weeks, like, it's just
Yeah.
such a big difference. It's kind of crazy to me. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
why? It's my
I think
question.
I don't know. And I think mentally it'll likely get a little bit less stressful for the top guys now that they have a little bit of a points gap. But I also think that some guys that are kind of the points are starting to veer away from them a little bit. I think they're going to try and maybe turn it on this weekend and see if they can keep that points gap a little bit closer than it is right now,
Yeah. Yeah,
or
and
than letting it get too far away.
right. Yeah, that's a good point that, we are still early. You still can turn it around. It's
Yeah,
not too late, but really, like, if you're in 10th and you're a whole race down already, like, that's
it's hard to
almost
make that up.
discouraging. Like,
Yeah,
by the end of the season, like, what is that? What is that points differential gonna be? Like,
right.
it's kind of wild to me, but it is what it is, and I think it shows that, the top three are really starting to stand out in this 450 field.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Like that.
And even just making the main event right now is a pretty difficult thing. Like,
Yeah, there's like 20, I forget how many you said exactly, but 20 some odd guys that are making the main every weekend out of like 80 something.
yeah, like, so I was looking at the points, and there are 27 people who have scored points, so basically 27 people that have made a main,
Right.
and 22 spots over the course of 4 weekends. That gets us 88 spots. There's 27 guys filling 88 spots so far this year. Like,
That's
it's not
crazy.
a whole lot of parity of who's getting into the race, but
No.
that top 8 switches every single weekend. So it's
Yeah.
kind of an interesting dynamic. Like, this top set of guys is so solid, but there's, I don't know, 5 to 8, 5 to 7-ish guys, like, on the bubble here. So
Right.
I don't know. How do you feel if you're, that guy that's 10 spots out? Like, do you have hope that you're going to make it in, or are you just kind of discouraged at this point? Like, why am I spending all my money going racing?
Yeah. I mean, you have to at some point you do have to have like some sort of hope, I would think. Because like you said, the top 8 guys, it's switching every single weekend on who literally the top 8 guys, any one of those guys could win.
Hmm.
So if you're 10 spots out, that's almost 10 spots that you could potentially fill, really, when you look at it.
Right.
So, but you're right. It probably is super discouraging. Like, I don't know. Obviously, we're not in those guys' helmets, so we can't understand it right to when we're on the floor of the arena. But, I feel like they could have a little bit of hope, but it probably would be pretty discouraging.
Yeah. And the 250 class is not much different. Like, there's
No.
31 guys instead of 27. Okay, 4 extra guys, but still, like, similar thing.
Hmm.
It's hard. Like,
Yeah.
getting into the race itself is hard. And
Oh,
so
absolutely.
it's easy to be harsh on people, right? Like, there's so much like, oh, if I didn't win, I lost. But really, like, if you're making it in, if you're getting points every single week, like, I count that as a success. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Something to be
absolutely.
proud of for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's my major takeaway, I feel like, from the weekend. Like, things are
Yeah.
just settling down, and it's very difficult to be even in the game at this point.
Yeah, I could agree with that for sure.
So breaking it down class by class now, 250 West, who is impressing for you this weekend? Honorable mentions,
Um,
maybe good or bad.
I mean, Freeze had a solid ride. Um, I think it was very impressive. He really showed some speed and he knows that he can be up there. He's had really good starts all year, but he's always kind of fallen off paper trail a little bit during the moto. But this weekend he kind of was up there, and that's sort of where I think he needed to be. And now he's got some confidence behind him. So I don't think you might not see him outside the top 5 now again for sure.
Hmm. Dude, in that crash,
And that
like,
crash, yeah,
oh my gosh. Seriously, like,
that could have been so bad.
I feel like we say that every weekend. Like, oh, there was this crash, and man, it could have been way worse than it was. Like, but this
I
one,
mean,
like, this was an aggressive, like,
yeah,
head injury, and like,
for
he's
sure.
really lucky to walk away from that one. Like, it really, like, anything with your head is so scary, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I feel like every weekend we're like someone's crashing and they're going down so hard that it could have been so bad. But everyone's getting off lucky this year, and that was just another weekend for sure. That was he did get off lucky, but that could have been really, really, really bad.
Yeah,
If that foot peg went right in the back of his head, but I was just worried about his like neck, where because
yeah.
I don't think he wears a neck brace, or does he wear a neck brace?
I don't, I don't think so. But even if he
I don't think
was,
so.
like,
But
you
there's
could,
nothing there.
you could still, like, the new Atlas is so low that
Low.
your neck is still exposed, so it helps, with the impact, but not necessarily like
Yeah,
protecting the neck as a whole.
yeah, and that's a sharp foot peg coming at you at a lot of speed.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
It's not going
jeez.
slow. Yeah,
No, no. Yeah, so I'm glad he's okay.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
really just like you said, he looked good all night. He's obviously a great starter no matter, what race it's been this year, but he really like held on this weekend in my opinion,
Yeah.
and that was the last lap, the second to last lap. So like he was making it and just had a mistake. Like the crash itself wasn't that bad, but it's the fact that Shimoda hit him that really solidified how bad that crash was. Like I think if that
Oh
wouldn't
yeah.
have happened, he would have got up and finished in the top 10 still.
I think so too. Yeah.
Um, what did you think about Christian Craig this weekend?
I mean, he had another really solid ride. He was being very patient, but it was more or less a quiet ride in comparison to his last weekends. Um, Obviously, super impressive. Still a red plate holder. You can't ask for anything more really at the end of the weekend.
Yeah. And I was kind of surprised, like that the first opening lap, first 2 laps maybe, he was getting passed, and I was
Yeah.
like, man, like Shimoda is passing him, like what is going on? But he, similar to me, slow and steady, chugging along, doesn't turn it on till halfway through the
The second
race.
the second last lap.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I'm the
And
same way.
so it's like I don't know. Like I want to avoid every chaotic, person out there. Just like I don't want to be near you. Like leave me alone, and then I'll have my race and keep going. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's kind of his personality, especially as a veteran in the
Yeah.
sport and especially in this class.
Yeah.
But it was surprising to see him getting past, but then make his way to the top step of the podium again.
Yeah.
It's impressive, I think.
It is. I'm very much similar, and like you said, I think you are too. You kind of just you're almost like moseying along for the first half of the moto, and then my dad always said that I always pass people on 2 laps to go. Like everyone's tired, and I'm kind of just still going because
Yeah.
I've like moseyed along the whole moto, and I can pass people with 2 laps to go and pass
Yeah.
like 10 people. It's awesome. I
Yeah.
hate it, but I think I just need to learn to go from the start.
I know. It's hard though. It's hard to
Yeah.
change your personality, right? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like how you race is definitely dependent on your personality and who you are as a person. Like, extreme
Yeah.
people that are, wide open right out the gate, that's how they are in a lot of aspects of their life, not just on the
Yeah.
racetrack. So,
For sure.
it's kind of a difficult thing to overcome. I guess all you got to do are sprints over and over and over again and hole
Honestly, yeah.
shots.
Yeah, because I think I did a fair share of woods racing in the last 5 years.
Mm.
So I think I was learning to conserve my energy at the very start so that I could ride the whole 2.5, 3 hours that we have to ride.
Right.
And I kind of just made that mistake almost and transferred that to a moto, but then I only have 20 minutes. So I have 10 of moseying around and then 10 of actually going
Yeah.
sprinting. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think maybe some sprint motos would do me some good.
Yeah. Me too. I'm in the same
Yeah.
boat.
Yeah.
Uh,
Let's do
um,
sprint laps together this summer.
yeah, I'm down.
Sprint motos.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Lawrence, I don't, I didn't even notice him. I did not
No, he
notice
was
Hunter Lawrence at all on Saturday
No,
night.
I think he was very quiet for the
Yeah.
most part, like a quiet ride. It was pretty solid, but quiet ride for sure. There was no cameras on him. He was kind of just, I couldn't even tell you where he started, honestly.
No, me either, honestly. Like, but he finished second, I think.
Yep.
Yeah,
No,
and
Mosiman.
third.
Mosiman was second.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mosman. How could we forget? Honestly, Mosman's like pretty aggressive, but never dirty. I don't
Yeah.
know. What do you think? His passing, at least.
He's pretty patient when it comes to passing. He's really good at setting them up decently, and he's not too aggressive. I mean, I've seen him make some aggressive moves, but it's never been like smashing into someone aggressive.
Yeah.
He's been, I'll push you out of the way, but I won't hit you, kind of, I think. But yeah, he's been impressive this year, honestly. He did he get hurt last year, maybe?
No,
No.
I think he was just
Hmm.
quietly like third, fourth, like definitely
Quiet.
overshadowed by the Star Yamaha guys, and
Yeah.
I honestly can't even tell you what coast he raced. I think West last
Yeah.
year.
He was
Like,
just quietly there.
yeah, and honestly, maybe that's what you need, right? Like
Yeah.
building and building and building. Like now he knows that he can finish a season because that is a challenge in and of itself. Just staying healthy throughout
Yep.
a season, and now challenging for wins and has a race win under his belt. Like I think um, everything is going in the right direction for him, and he should be in the 250 class again next year. I don't think he's going to point out or anything. So
Yeah.
next year, if he doesn't take this away from Christian this year, I think next year is really his year to shine in the 250 class.
I think so too. And he's pretty young too. I think he might only be 22, maybe 23.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's still a good 250 guy.
Yeah. Any other notable moments for you in the 250 class?
Uh, I'm gonna go back to Shimoda. Like he had an impressive ride. I think again it was pretty quiet. I think it was a pretty quiet weekend for the most of the 250 guys. But it was pretty impressive. He hasn't gotten great starts all year, but he's definitely shown his speed when he's had to work from the back pretty well every weekend. And yeah, impressive ride by Shimoda for sure.
Hmm. I also want to note Carson Brown. Um, what place did he get?
He was like at one point I remember looking and he was third.
Yeah,
I
and
don't know whether that was the heat or the main.
he finished sixth. So
Six. Oh, okay, yeah,
like that's that's good. Like for
that's very good.
full privateer, like
Yeah, yeah,
it's the honorable mention for me, definitely.
yep, yeah. Agreed, 100%.
Yeah. Moving on to 450 class, who impressed you? Honorable mentions again, good, bad, ugly. Who got sand in their goggles?
Yeah. I mean, obviously AP, that sucks that he went down and he DNF'd.
Yeah.
I think that was my bad honorable mention, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And then an impressive ride by Tomac. He was my honorable mention for the weekend. He's starting to show his speed and that he's just as capable as any other guy on the track. And I think now that he's been a little bit patient and maybe too patient, but yeah, I think now that he's got a win under his belt, he's ready to go and he's just as capable as any other guy. So honorable mention to Tomac from my end for sure.
Yeah, Tomac was like, it just looked like his bike worked. Like,
Yeah.
watching the KTMs, watching the Cowie,
Cowie.
like, the bikes did not look like they liked that track, and they all just looked like they wanted to stand up, like,
Yeah.
not settling in the turns, like, literally throwing Jason off the track. Like, I don't think he did
I
that,
was
on purpose, or, like, even just him as a mistake. Like, I think it's just the bike not reacting properly and sending him all over the place.
Yeah, I was gonna mention something about Anderson. Maybe his bike didn't look like it was settling, and maybe he was a little bit uncomfortable. But I think you're right. I don't think he did that on purpose by any
Mm.
means.
Yeah.
So I think he was just not set. His bike wasn't settling. He was uncomfortable. I mean, he had an off weekend, in my opinion, even though he rode really well and still ended up second. I
Hmm.
think for him that was an off weekend. But that last corner pass on Wilson, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
In
Tomac, like, where I started and then had this tangent here. Uh, Tomac is really, like, happy. Like, every
hmm
single interview I've seen of him, he just looks like he's happy, he's excited to be here, and, like, I feel like he had this persona about him that, oh, he's not outgoing, he doesn't like to do interviews, he isn't, he doesn't have a cool personality, like, some other riders, maybe Kenny or AC, like, and I feel like he's just plain old happy now. And so maybe he wasn't, maybe he wasn't quiet, maybe he wasn't uh, shy, maybe he was just unhappy and didn't want to do these things because he didn't like his results, he didn't like the situation he was in, and now it's like whole new Tomac for,
yeah,
off the bike and maybe even on the bike too.
yeah, I think he looked a lot more at home. So I could agree with everything you just said. He definitely looked a lot more at home this weekend than he had in the past.
Hmm. Yeah, good for him. Good for Yamaha. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
Ferrandis started in
That was
12th and made
yeah,
his way up to what, fourth, fifth? Literally
fourth, fourth.
fourth. Like, literally every weekend, that guy is starting behind and making his way through the pack, and that in and of itself is like,
Yeah.
man, if you got a whole shot, like, would you be gone? I think he'd be gone.
I would think honestly. He's another guy that hasn't had very good starts all year and he's been starting from the back every time, which is terrible because I think if he got a good start, you're right. I I could see it. He'd probably be gone pretty quick.
Yeah, like, just being able to pass guys that have lap times, within the same second as you is pretty impressive. And to be able to pull away and to be able to catch that next guy and the next guy and the next guy, like, I don't know. I
Yeah,
think maybe the East Coast will suit him better and some
maybe
other
yeah.
riders better, but um, yeah, I hope he figures it out. Like, I can see him being a champion. He wants it. He has the desire and the drive and the determination and hard work and everything that it takes to be a champion. Obviously, because he's done it in the 250 class. But I think, you know, with that much effort put into the sport, like, there's no way you can't not win.
No,
Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
you have to, when you work that hard, eventually it's going to come back around for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And could you imagine how hard it'd be to pass from 12th to 4th? Those are like those lap times you're all within a second.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
you know how hard that would be? Like good for him. That was a
Wild.
really solid ride. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to be smart. Like, you can't just, you're not going 3 seconds a lap faster than someone and just blowing
No,
past
blowing
them.
by
Like,
them.
it's, you have to be smart about it. So
Yeah.
good on
It's not that
Ferrandis.
easy.
Like, I hope we get to see more of him on TV.
Yeah,
Speaking of
me too.
TV, did your sound work this week?
Yes, it did. We didn't have any technical issues, thank God. Because the week before was really hard to watch without any sound. You just had to watch the leaderboard, honestly.
Yeah.
But then anything that was going on behind whoever they had the cameras off of, you couldn't hear it, so you couldn't see it either.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're watching the leaderboard and you're watching people go up and down and up and down. You're like, wait, what's going on? But yeah, no, we had sound. The Canadian streaming site was okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What do you think about Cooper Webb so far this season, last weekend?
I don't know. He needs to turn it on here soon, I think. I think he's going to start to fall off the bandwagon if he doesn't, but that's just my opinion. I don't know. What's yours?
Yeah, I think going east will help him a lot. Um, he always seems to just do better when the track's a little bit softer. He's never really seemed like a West Coast guy, but when you grow up on the East Coast, like, what do you expect? Um,
Yeah.
like, you just, whatever you've ridden your whole life, of course you're going to be better at that. Like, when you've ridden in
Right.
California for not as long, it's going to be more difficult and less intuitive to you. So I hope he figures it out. Like, it would be really impressive, like we were talking about at the beginning, just um, how spread out the points already are. It would be so impressive for him to be able to turn this around when we go east, which the first round is in Minneapolis, so that's pretty exciting for
Yep.
me personally.
Are you going?
Of course.
Absolutely. You
Well,
can't not go.
I know. Well, there's a lot of people not going, which,
Yes.
yeah, there's a lot of people not very happy about the COVID restrictions. So
Oh,
I honestly predict that it'll be a very light crowd, but hey, that means I get a better show, right?
there you go. Yeah.
But I hope that that doesn't mean that they take it away, that they don't bring it back to Minneapolis just because of another fluke year with COVID. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but um, going back to Webb, like I think he'll turn it around, and
I hope
like
so.
he has to, like
Yeah.
just like in his personality, that's just what happens. Like
Yeah.
again, turns it on late, um, but his racecraft is second to none, and so it would be very impressive for him to be able to make up that points gap and take over the red plate, which
Yeah. Agreed.
not
Obviously,
unattainable.
no, he's done it in the past, and yeah. I mean, you might be right, and I hope you are too. But I think you're onto something when he's definitely an East Coast guy. That's where he grew up, so I could see him turning it on. Hopefully for the East Coast, anyway. I would hope.
So, the elephant in the room that we haven't yet covered is, I think, been covered by a lot of people and seen by a lot of people, and almost be like beating a dead horse here. But the
Yeah,
Anderson passing Roxon, Roxon goes down in the
down.
sand. What do you make of it? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, it is what it is almost.
Mhm.
Um, it was. I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it really. What do you? What's your take on it? I want to hear it.
I mean, I think like we had talked earlier about how his bike was not settling, his bike was standing up. Like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe he had intentions of going in there and just passing and taking the line away, which it almost looked like from that outside line you had to like jump over the inside line to get back onto the
Right.
main racetrack. So like the outside line, you know, until you take it, you don't know what's out there. But it looked just not feasible. Like I would never
Right.
pick that line to go over, which
Yeah.
someone at that caliber knows that when you go inside, like you know where that rut is going, and you can kind of
Right.
expect that from the outside line. So
Yeah.
I think it just racing incident. Like,
Yeah. That's what I mean. I don't think it was intentional by any
no,
means.
of course not. Like,
Um,
he almost went down too. Like,
and that, yeah, I don't know how he didn't, honestly.
yeah, maybe the sand helped him, and it was a
Maybe.
bit more forgiving, and who knows. But I don't know. He acknowledged on the podium that that wasn't the best move for me to make, and so maybe he thought he was closer, so on and so forth.
Right.
But like, obviously, he didn't mean it. If he is
No.
already apologizing on the podium, like,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
like he knows he kind of messed up, and
Oh, yeah. And at least he's admitting to it and he's not like, oh, yeah, it's kind of got in the way. And,
Yeah.
He's admitting he's at fault. And well, he wasn't, I shouldn't say he's at fault because a racing incident happens. It happens to everyone. So, and I think it goes back almost to his bike setup. You might be right.
Yeah.
Wasn't settling, and yeah, might have just bucked him the wrong way, or you never know.
Yeah. Like, even if it just stands up a little bit in that corner and you push that much more outside, like, that just might have been enough, right? Like, if that
Right.
wasn't happening, maybe he would have been able to tuck under the inside and they both would have been okay for the next corner or whatever. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did
What do
you
you
see
make
that
of? Go
Sorry,
ahead.
did you see that Instagram picture though of that crash
Yeah.
when he hit Kenny?
Yeah.
I don't know how he didn't fall. Honestly,
Right. Like,
I don't know how he rode that out.
he's just kind of loose, I think. Like,
Yeah.
how did he jump off the track, then double over the tough blocks, and then jump back onto the track last weekend?
Yeah,
You know?
you're not wrong.
Like, I think he's just
A
uh,
loose rider.
loose and has great technical instinct. I
Yeah.
guess
Yeah.
talent
Yeah.
to be able to do stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you make of Kenny? He got, I don't know, 17th, 18th, somewhere down there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I'm kind of disappointed that he didn't
Yeah.
push harder and keep trying.
Yeah. Me too. I mean, he took a while to get up,
Yeah.
and then didn't really ride his hardest. But I agree. Like I'm kind of disappointed that he didn't get up and charge a little bit. But you never know what was going on in his head too. Like he might have. It wasn't a. It wasn't a hard hit, but it also wasn't super forgiving either.
Hmm.
So he might have had like even his foot. I don't know,
Yeah.
foot, ankle, knee. Something could have been sore. I don't know. You never know.
Yeah.
But that's just the way that it goes, and hopefully he can turn it around next weekend.
Yeah. Or it goes back to the whole getting over your mistakes thing. Like, maybe
Yeah.
it was just in his head and he was just so mad that it just wasn't gonna work from that point
And he's
on.
like, yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting though, the implications that will have on the championship. Like, do you think he thinks he's out of the championship at this point?
I don't think so. Do you?
I don't know. I feel like um, if you thought that you were in the championship, you would keep riding hard. Like, you would try.
I suppose, yeah.
Like, you wouldn't just be like, like 17th is okay. Like, he could have got back up to 10th, like, pretty
At
easily, in my
least.
opinion.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
and that would be even better than, every point
Yeah.
counts at that point.
Yeah. I mean, obviously a championship's still attainable.
Hmm.
I don't think that'll I don't think that really, I mean, obviously it will affect him mentally, but I don't think it'll affect him mentally for the whole season. Like
Yeah.
I think he'll be all right.
Hmm.
It is what it is. It's a racing incident, and that's how it goes. It happens to everyone. So,
Yeah, no kidding. Um, Going back to the big picture here, looking forward in both classes, how did this weekend kind of shift the dynamics of who's a front runner and who's maybe a mid-pack guy?
well, I think we go back to the points thing too, how it's separated a little bit in the 450 class. You might see those top runner guys start to turn it on here in the next couple weeks, but then you also might see those mid-pack riders sort of kind of settle where they're at. Maybe they've come to realize that maybe a top 10 or top 5 isn't so attainable, but I think a lot of those like 5 to 7, maybe even 8 they might even start to turn it on and get into the top 5 there a little bit more, I hope anyways. But I think that's sort of the dynamic of the weekend, how it shifts a little bit there, points wise.
Yeah, and like we had talked about, maybe Coop turns it on, maybe Tomac is actually in this for the long haul. I don't know. Is Anderson in this for the long haul? Like, at this point, I think he is. And I
Yeah.
think
Oh
Tomac's
yeah.
in it too. Like, it's,
You can't not be.
right. And it's kind of a question of who in that mid pack is going to make those changes, is going to, figure it out and become one of those front runners. And I think when we go east is really that turning point for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Lindsay. I think that about covers it. Any concluding thoughts?
No burning questions or no burning thoughts. No, you?
No, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Thanks for
I totally
joining
love
me.
it. Thank
And
you.
thank you, everybody else, for tuning in. If you like this episode, share it with a friend. And if you're not already, subscribe wherever you are listening. We'll see you next week.